In today's world, one thing is for certain. The BMW 3 Series is sort of like a loaf of bread. Everybody likes it. You can find it anywhere. The volume of what is produced is so much per year. And it's just good enough that the recipe has never really been changed. It's always been a smallish sports sedan, standard rear-wheel drive, a 4 or a 6-cylinder underneath the hood, and it's just been built as a commuter for the average businessman. The G20 has been out for a while now, and I've always just desperately wanted to give it a try and compare it to my own car to see, does it still have the same feel that this older one did 17 years ago, which is what we're here to find out today. Let's have a look, shall we, at the engine. Oh dear, I see oil leaks. We'll forget about that for now. These cars house the least expensive drivetrains of any 3 Series that you can get, at least in the United States. All you could get the E46 as was 325i, 325xi, which is what this car is, 330i, 330xi, and 330i ZHP. What the M54 does really well is live. The M54, I think, is a absolutely reliable bulletproof engine. I mean, this thing will run forever. It's just everything else around it that'll rust away and break. I think this is an amazing, amazing, amazing engine. It likes to burn oil a lot, sometimes through the exhaust, which is a very good feeling looking back through your rearview mirror when you put your foot down and seeing blue and more blue. The brand new 330i. We open the hood and we see twin power turbo prominently and proudly displayed over what is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. A staggering 256 horsepower, which is 72 more than my car. I can't vouch for the reliability of this engine because I haven't owned this car for 20,000 miles like the other car, but this car in particular has 27,000 miles, and it's just nice to open the hood and not see oil leaks everywhere and not smell burning oil. If I were to buy one, I'd probably just be safe and stick with the 4-cylinder 330 because it looks decently easy to work on, and 250 horsepower is a hell of a lot more than what I have in my car, so it's definitely an improvement. Right. Rear seat room of the E46. Now, again, I say this every single time, but I am 6'2.5", I believe. So, climb in.
Squeeze ourselves
in. So, if you man spread, it's okay. But if you don't man spread, I can hear the plastics that are right inside here crackling as I press my knees into it harder and harder to get comfortable. So I don't need to mention legroom, really. My feet are trapped underneath the seat, so there's not a lot of room to move. But it's okay, at least I can put my head back. No, I can't do that either. It's definitely okay for short journeys for adults, but if you're on like a long road trip in this thing and you're stuck in the back seat as a tall person, behind a tall person, it will be utter misery. You can't really expect a lot of room back here. It's okay. One thing that is nice is that the quality of materials in the back seat is the same as in the front seat. I've still got the wood trim and nice leatherette, fake leather, whatever the hell it is. Plastic in the back of the seats, but it's not too bad. I've got storage nets and everything, so the quality of fit and finish back here is definitely decent. G20. And now I can already see improvements from where I'm standing right now, so let's just go ahead, hop right in. Again, this front seat is in my driving position, and starting from the bottom, I still have no room for my feet to move around, which is annoying. But at least I don't have to man spread to be decently comfortable in the knee region. Headroom is minimally better than it is in the E46, but if I put my head back, I can still feel my head touching the headliner, which is always annoying. Just like in the E46, the fixtures and fittings back here are the same as they are in the front, which is a very good thing. Here, rear climate control, which is really, really nice. At this price point for a compact luxury car. It's very good. And 2 USB-C ports. There's a lot more amenities back here than in the E46. Let's check the middle seat comfort, which is exactly the same as it is in the E46. It's terrible. For long journeys, it's definitely better for adults back here. The business end, pardon the pun. And before I move any further, manual transmission, which in the E46 325, it is still a 5-speed manual. In the 330, it was a 6-speed manual. The G20 is the first 3 Series to not be offered with a manual transmission, at least in the United States. I've also got another thing which is nice, a traditional parking brake, which is always a good thing. I can honestly tell you, as an ex-owner of the old E36 that came before this, the cup holders were a massive improvement because they actually hold the drinks. Imagine that. They've got these little tab things that poke out and they hold the drink in place. This car, it's interesting to note, has hill descent control, which is normally something that you'd find on serious off-roaders and things, but I have it in this car and it works. You can control it with the cruise control buttons on the steering wheel. It goes from 1 mile per hour to 20, pulses the brakes and keeps you from sliding into a tree, and it's a very, very useful feature. We have a much more dated infotainment climate control area here than in the G20. It's definitely showing its age. I honestly really like just the simplistic feel of everything here. Everything is exactly where you would expect. It's easy. It's definitely intuitive to use. It's just quite featureless is the problem. It's okay. In terms of technology up here, I do have automatic headlights and automatic wipers. Nice turn signals, which strangely have a lot less wear on them than the wiper stock does. I don't understand why. This button on the turn signal stock, which you can cycle through things like temperature, average MPG, range, average miles per hour, and the clock, and that's it. This steering wheel, interestingly, came out of an X5. It's an early 2000s car, so it's not too hard to find cheap feeling plastic everywhere in here, but it's made to look like leather, so if you don't touch it, then you'll be fine. Just, I like this simplistic, not too much technology, but enough that you're happy with it. And again, manual gearbox, which is awesome. This is the interior of the pre-facelift G23 series. Again, automatic transmission only on the American G20. I do have drive modes in here, which I don't have in the E46. Traction control off button, but no hill descent control. But I do have parking sensors and reversing cameras and things like that. Electronic parking brake, the same sort of cup holders with the tabs on them, which is great. And a wireless charger up here, which is awesome. That's one modern car feature that I would really love to have. But if you don't want to see any of this, you can just close that up, and now it's a lot more simplistic, kind of clean looking. The climate control is about the same. It's in where you would expect, and you know where to find everything. I've got the same heated seats and the same sort of controls, so it's as simplistic and easy to understand as anybody would like it to be, but it's still kind of more modern and more smart looking than it is in the E46. And we'll have to talk about this iDrive system for a second. It also only has the base navigation screen, which is tiny, and you can see just how big the bezels on the outside of it are, so you're constantly aware of the fact that you couldn't afford the better screen. I am still sort of able to show 2 things on the screen at once. It is a touch screen. It's reasonably intuitive and easy to use, but it's definitely showing its age. I'm saying this even though they've updated it to a brand new, really nice, gorgeous system that's a lot better. This one's dated, but it's also an older car, so that's okay. The lack of a manual transmission is made up for somewhat with the fact that it has shift paddles. The steering wheel is really nice, feels beautiful in your hand, it's heated. And there you go, folks. There's your M logo on a car that is definitely not an M car in any definition of the word. Posted there prominently so you can tell people that don't know any better that you have the M, when really you don't. But it makes BMW money, so you can't blame them too much for that. It's definitely a much nicer feeling interior in here. I do definitely feel like I'm sitting lower down. This interior shows improvement over the ages versus the old E46. So, the foundations of the 3 Series are the influences from the past right here at the E46 are still very clear in the new one. Definitely a nicer car, it has more technology, it's easier to use every day, etc., etc. But everybody knows the 3 Series is all about the driving experience. So let's have a quick little startup and rev test, and then we'll take them out on the road and see how they drive and see how they compare. I think the obvious place to start with driving experience is the E46, because the E46 is where the G20 gets its roots from. We need to kind of judge the E46 as the baseline. It's power steering in this car, and it's definitely more work when you're doing tight maneuvering around town. It seems like it feels like you're turning the wheel a lot more, but that might just be because of the increased strength, if you will, of the steering wheel turning. Nice, just feeding the clutch and the throttle and getting the car moving and all this other stuff. It's great. I really like that. I love manual transmission. So 325, 184 horsepower, 2.5 liter 6-cylinder. Let's see how it accelerates 180,000 miles later. It's loud. You definitely hear a lot more than you would in the G20, that's for certain. And it's not really that fast, to be honest. There's more noise than there is in the G20, that's for certain. But it's so much more fun being able to row through the gears. And to be honest, it's a cheap used car now. It's 180,000 miles. It's not going to be worth very much, especially with the silver panel on the side. It's not worth anything, and it's mine, so I can just beat the hell out of it as much as I want. Having an automatic always kind of dulls that desire anyways. It's just really good to have the freedom of a manual transmission and a crappy old car, to be honest. So this car is definitely more fun than the G20, no question about it. But the G20 is probably going to make up for that, for just being a more comfortable everyday vehicle. Again, it's my car, so I don't have to be nice to it. That was redlined in first gear. Redlined second. That was 0 to 60. We'll put that time up on the screen. There's a Fiesta cutting me off. It felt really good. It felt fast, but that's only because I was throwing it through the gears, and it was like a 10-12 second 0 to 60. Handling is very good in this car and grips very well. It does have a little bit of body roll, but that could just be because the increased wear over 180,000 miles. This car's never going to be as tight as it once was, that's for sure. I would love a 6-speed manual, which of course, the next model year, the 2006 325xi, did come with a 6-speed manual. So again, rev matching, very easy. Very connected feel. I've always said that for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, a manual all-wheel drive E46, you can't do better as a first car. Now it's time to see how the G20 drives. There's a Fiero. The G20 has electronic power steering, so the steering feel isn't going to be as connected as it was in the E46. And also, you won't feel as connected at all, again, because it's a automatic transmission. It's a small car, so of course, maneuverability is no problem at all. It's great. Maybe not as good as in the E46, but this is a bigger car than the E46. This is about the same size as the 5 Series was back in the day. I think that's what everybody says. With the E46, the E46 was quiet, and so is this. This thing is even more quiet, except there's this weird ticking noise. Do you guys hear that? I don't know what that noise is. I don't understand. The transmission doesn't feel as smooth as I'd like it to be. You definitely feel the shifts. I think honestly the automatic in the Mazda 3 that I drove was a little bit smoother, which is quite amazing. All right, 256 horsepower. Let's see what that's all about. So we're gonna straighten it up. Honestly, it picks up better than I would have expected for only 250 horsepower. It's definitely all right, and it's more than most people would ever want. If this isn't enough power for you, you can get nearly 400 horsepower in the M330i. Is nice, and I'd love to see how fast that thing is, because this thing honestly feels pretty sprightly, and I like the feel of the paddles. No turbo lag in sight from what I can feel, which is impressive. So we'll try tires not recognized. That is a message that I never had to understand. All right, so this is sport mode. It doesn't make you laugh and giggle like some vehicles can do, but it's definitely not a slow car, that's for sure. It's, as a base model, it's all right. It's really quiet in here. I mean, it's quiet, and when you put your foot down, the noise isn't annoying. It's not sporty and, you know, funny and awesome. It's smooth. BMW is good at smooth engines. That's what everybody knows them for. Even on a 4-cylinder, it's very nice and smooth when it's at idle. The most important thing is that you shouldn't be able to tell that the car's running by feel. You should only be able to look at the tachometer and see, oh, the engine's running. That's what's important for BMW engines, and they do that very well. And it does steer. I mean, the steering is very darty and quick, and there's minimal body roll. It handles pretty well considering the fact that it's larger and heavier than my old E46, but it is also newer, so everything's tighter and more wound up and dialed in. This is just a nice car for daily driving. I do wish I had a manual though. One benefit is that I think I have 8 gears on this automatic, which I only have 5 in the E46, so highway driving is going to be a lot more relaxing. It'll be easier to use the engine's power because it has so many more gears. Oh, and stop start, so the engine just turned itself off, and then if I let off the brake, it turns on again. The G20 is a very good car. I think they're both really good at what they're meant for. The E46 is definitely more connected and more fun, but the G20 is faster, it's smoother, it's more luxurious, it's more modern. So as a daily driver, something to take to school and to work every day, I think I would easily take the G20. Obviously, it's the newer car. It does kind of miss a little bit of that fun factor and that nice noise that the old E46 does, but that's the way of the modern car. It is a very, very nice, smooth, good little car though. With that said, I'm gonna finally end this video here, so I hope everybody enjoyed the 3 Series content. If there's any BMWs you want me to review, let me know. And thank you again to BMW of Murray for lending me this car. It's always a very nice thing. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. Bye-bye.